Hi, welcome to the latest of our Navionics webinars in association with saltwater boat angling. Today I have with me in the studio over in Plymouth, obviously Lance Godefroy from Navionics and Kyle Waterhouse. And what we're going to talk about today is a rather exciting adventure we had in Panama in February, kayaking and catching very large fish with very big teeth. So I'm going to hand you over to Kyle, who's going to run you through some of the slides and the information that we gathered on that.
Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for joining us again. I've put together a nice slide show here. It's just to run through, as Tim said, our little adventure that we had a couple of months ago. So our agenda. So I'm just going to run through the location and the experience, so how to get there, what part of Panama it is, our group. So I'll give you a little bit of background about as to who was in our group on the last trip and the trip before. Pascal, who is the organizer of the camp, we'll give you a little bit of history about him and his operation that he's been running there for the last 5 or 6 years. We'll look in depth at some of the fish we caught, particularly the big rooster fish, snappers, jack crevalles, and all sorts of big scary fish. Then we'll move on to tackle and tactics, so some of the lure fishing tactics that we used out there, particularly the lures that worked for us. Hobie kayaks, as you can see in the background there, Paul showing off nicely there in his Hobie, so we'll run through the benefits of the Hobie kayaks and how they worked well for us over in Panama. The lodge and the food, we'll take you through the lodge and the sleeping areas and some of the food that you get served out there. Top-notch food. We'll show you some pictures of that. Of course, we will do something on safety. It's at the bottom there, but it's certainly not the bottom of our priorities because it is particularly dangerous, a potentially dangerous place to fish. So we'll run through some safety tips, keep you safe on the water. Then at the end we'll have more information, so if you want to find out a bit more and get involved, we'll point you in the right direction. Okay, so the location. So me and Lance have just downloaded the Navionics chart for the area, and right down here in the south is where the camp is. So this is the Pacific coast, so not the Caribbean side. You're looking at right down the very southern tip of Panama here. It's called the Azero Peninsula, and it's the Serra Hoya National Park. So it's very, very remote, off the grid fishing here. It's quite out of the way. It's quite a trek to get there. But yeah, obviously once you're there, because of the fact it's such a trek, it's really good fishing.
Virgin jungle as well, isn't it? I mean, we were listening to all sorts of howler monkeys and toucans and goodness knows what.
Yeah, it's a fantastic place. So the overall experience, try and sort of break down what you expect if you're going to go here. So it's an adventure. First up, it's obviously an adventure. It's not called Panama Kayak Adventure for no reason, and it certainly sort of lives up to its name. If you go in there, you are certainly in for an adventure. Just getting there alone is an adventure. The fishing itself is pretty wild. The scenery's stunning. Remote and off the grid, so once you're there, there's no phones, no phone signal, no Wi-Fi. You've got basics like running water and solar power, but you don't have, many luxuries. So it's pretty off the grid. Extreme kayak fishing. So I'd say this is pretty extreme fishing. The fish here are pretty big. The conditions can be quite wild. So as a first timer, Tim's done pretty well to jump in at the deep end here. I would say this is pretty extreme fishing.
I have to say, at this point, I was really terrified when I realised I was actually going kayaking, because originally I thought it was just a sort of fishing trip. When Sam Wadman, who organised it, later told me what we were doing, I kind of wondered whether it was whether I'd actually lost my marbles.
Yeah, you came back again, Tim. So you managed it.
So yeah, stunning scenery. I've got a few pictures in here that kind of give you an idea of what the scenery's like out there. But I think we all described it as kind of like a lost kingdom, almost like a Jurassic Park. It's quite surreal, really. The landscape out there is very, very, very picturesque, idyllic. You need to go there and see it for yourself, really, to truly appreciate it. But some of these pictures do it justice, I think. Crazy wildlife, as Tim just mentioned. Some howler monkeys, I think we saw there. We've seen whale sharks, turtles, pelicans, bull sharks. You name it, we've seen it there. It's not just what's going on below the water. Above the water, you've got some pretty crazy wildlife to see as well, which certainly adds to the adventure.
The first thing I caught was a pelican, wasn't it, Kyle?
Yeah, yeah, it was actually. On the first day, Tim caught a pelican. It went for his lure, so I had the fun job of unhooking it for him. So that was an interesting start, Tim. Laid back culture. The Panamanians are particularly laid back. The country's not been spoiled by tourism yet. It is a relatively safe place to travel to, as far as I'm concerned. We've never had any real dramas or issues getting around there. It's much safer than some parts of the UK, I would say. So yeah, certainly a laid back culture. Lifetime memories. So yeah, if you go in there, you're going to take home some pretty awesome memories. I've been there twice now, and it's pretty much all I talk about. So it's big memories from Panama. So our group, from left to right, this was on the last trip we went on. So Sam Wadman, most of you probably will know or have heard of Sam Wadman. So he's our overseas specialist angler, I've called him. He's a sponsored consultant for Masterline Walker, and he's acting as a Panama agent for the camp. So yeah, Sam's really been the one who's driven this for us and organised it all and sort of glue that's held it all together. And without Sam, probably none of it would have happened. So thank you, mate. Paul the Barman Harmon, been away with, called the Barman because he runs a pub up in Brighton, Jack and Jill, cracking pub. Been fishing, been away with Paul twice now. He's a very well-travelled fisherman, is Paul, cracking fly angler. Top bloke as well, really good person to have around when you're travelling because he's a good laugh. Myself,
Don't talk about the...
Yeah. So myself, UK kayak angler, Garmin ambassador, and obviously right for saltwater boat angling. And then we have Tim, who's with us at the moment, who's director for the Angling Trust, the editor of Saltwater Boat Angling, and of course he is new to kayaking. So here he is, sitting in his Hobie for the very first time. Sam looking down on him, quite perplexed, with his shiny legs out. So yeah, how was that, Tim? First time sat in a Hobie?
Yeah, I was at that point, I was still worried. I mean, obviously, most of you are younger than I am, and I've never done kayaking, so I was a bit worried about whether I'd be. Actually, I did pretty well, actually.
Yeah, you did do well. You did very well. I don't know if that smile was on your face the whole time, though. If I'm honest, there were some moments. Okay, so Pascal, Pascal and the operation. This is not a medical operation, but his kayak adventure lodge operation. So there's a few pictures here that kind of demonstrate what happens. So once we've been from Panama City right the way down to the south to Cambertown, which is around 6 hours in a minibus, we then meet Pascal, who's the chap here on the left loading the boat. He will load all our kit onto the boat, including all the fuel, food and supplies and everything needed for the week's adventure. And then yeah, we travel down the coast for around an hour or so until we get to the camp. And then each day we mothership, so we load the kayaks onto the panga, and then we zoom up and down to the best looking bits of ground. So it gives you a chance to fish further ashore, further afield from the camp, access new grounds, and tuck away from the weather and stuff as well, if there's a bit of wind about. So that's basically how it works. Well, yeah. So let's get on to some fish, shall we? Let's have a look at some fish. Here's Tim here. Holding probably the biggest jack crevalle we had all week, if I'm honest. So I had the pleasure of taking the picture of it for him. And it put up a pretty big scrap, this fish did, Tim, didn't it?
Well, I mean, think it was going to show me how hard these fish fight compared to what we catch here. That was
Crazy.
it. I mean, it was quite an experience. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a biggish fish, but not a monster at all. And that really was quite a surprise when I hooked that. Lovely, very nice. Great
Especially
stuff.
Jack in particular. Got another slide here, but these fish we're showing you now.
My God.
So you got Jack Crevalle, bluefin trevally, all of the Jack species. Very, very prevalent on Panama coastline, the wild coast. Probably less so this year than last year. But yeah, super, super hard fighting fish. So just mini GTs essentially. Quite very, very hard for their size. Pound for pound, I would say they're probably the hardest fighting fish I've ever fought for sure. You have them on for serious time sometimes, and you pull it up, and it's a 10-pounder. And they feel twice the size they are.
Well, my rod right over. I mean, literally this big heavy spinning rod, right?
Yeah, right over. Dipping drag on a tight drag. Insane fight. But these bluefin trevallies in particular, you see Paul and myself holding there. Very, very pretty fish. We expect lots of those in Panama. But they'll take all sorts of lures as well. So they're a great sport fish. They'll take lures off the top, jerk baits, jigs, all sorts. Rooster fish. So perhaps the biggest target for traveling anglers when they go out there. Everyone wants to catch a rooster fish. And we did all right. We caught quite a few last trip we had, including quite a couple of real big fish, up to around 50, 60 pounds. The year before, Sam had some even bigger ones, up to around, we think, 80 pounds. Roosters are very, very, very powerful fish, and I've not hooked anything like the big one that I caught. I had it on for around 40 minutes, using pretty heavy gear as well. So these fish are crazy. They pull your arm off.
It was the last fish of the trip, wasn't it?
Very last cast. So yeah, last fish I caught pretty much. So snapper, there's some big snapper over in Panama, but not only that, there's actually quite a variety of them. So I think in this picture we've actually got 6 different species. So we've got the Cubera, the Colorado, yellow snapper, mullet snapper, rock snapper. So lots of different snappers. All pull your arm off. All cool looking fish as well, mean looking fish with big teeth. Dorado, so I mean these aren't quite as common. I was lucky enough to catch this beautiful Dorado. Crazy colours on it, which we also had for tea, which tasted very nice.
So, say it was the nicest, the most beautiful eating fish I've ever had.
Same, definitely. People have told me how good it tastes, but until you actually try it for yourself, it's almost like a steaky sort of texture. Really, really good fish.
The interesting thing is that
another good eating fish.
Those beautiful colours that you showed, it's a shame that they fade so quickly.
Yeah.
You have to take it straight away to get those colours right.
Yeah, I caught that when everyone else was on the boat, thankfully. So I had a boat full of photographers ready to take pictures. So yeah, tuna, yellowfin tuna, lots of small tunas up to around 20 pounds. Really, really good eating fish. We had fresh sushi most nights, plenty of those, and then for their size as well, they fight ridiculously strong. Most of those fish are topwater fish, or you catch on jerk baits, but there's also amberjack and groupers and some bottom dwelling fish, which we haven't really done so well with the last couple of times we've been, but they are there. They're just not when we're there, I think. But amberjack, broomtail grouper, Goliath grouper, all those sorts of fish are down there on the bottom. They catch them on jigs. So tackle to take on those sorts of fish. In the background under here, you can see all the kit I took with me on the last session. You probably don't need all that. I probably went a little bit overboard, but I'll run through the types of gear you need really to take on these fish. So you're going to have 2 main setups. So you're going to have a spinning and popping rod and then a jigging rod. So your popping rod, ideally it needs to be a heavy duty popping rod. So you're talking heavyweight rod, fast action, and something around 7 to 9 foot. I think 9 might be pushing it, but around 7 to 8 foot. you need a bit of length to get the rod tip over the bow of the kayak if you hook something, and a bit of extra length to give yourself some distance, so you don't have to get so close to the rocks. Lures are around 40 to 100 grams. Maybe the odd one might be slightly over that, but a rod for around that lure rating is fine. To pair with that, you're going to want quality reel, so you need decent reels with a good strong drag. We'll be using Penn Slammers, Daiwa Saltigas, Shimano's, you know, the decent reels. You don't want to be taking any chances out there with cheap reels. Fully loaded with 80-pound braid. You want to be checking your braid regularly as well, because you get frayed up on rocks and things like that, so you want to be checking your braid. 80 to 100-pound fluorocarbon, so yeah, not taking any chances with line of that thickness. You need strong knots as well. Albright knot, I think we've been using with some success out there. That aside though, Pascal's gear, you can take your own gear or hire gear out there. Pascal's hire gear is very good. He's got Daiwa reels, Shimano rods, so can't go wrong with that. Just took my own gear this year just because I had it. That was the only reason. I used hire gear last year and it's fine. Hooks and split rings. So a little close up of my tackle box here prior to this year's trip. If you're going out there, you need to replace all the hooks on your lures for stronger hooks, because the fish out there are going to bend them out or they're going to break your split rings. Onus ST66s, the standard hooks that I use, along with the Owner Pro rings, around 100-pound breaking strain. 100 pound, 100 kilo, one of the two. Fit out all your lures with those and you won't go wrong. So on to the lures. So it's probably everyone's favourite topic. 4 or 5 different, Tim waggling is there. We've got 5 different types, or different techniques you can use out there. So popping, pulling the lure across the surface, jerk baits, and stick baits just below the surface, and then you've got your deep divers, which is what we troll with. And then when we're in deeper water, we also do a bit of jigging as well. So here's some of my favourite lures. Not going to go through all of these, but you can come back to this slide if you want to check this out again. And obviously, if you do sign up for with Pascal, he will send you a kit list as well. I think Tim's got one he wants to show us.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to show. I don't know if you can see that is a few days popping, and that got battered by fish. And only
what you'll find is some poppers,
and they get completely wrecked, and the hooks get these actually will replace these hooks. Same with this. This is what I caught one of the roosters on. And again, they just give it such a hell of a whack. Make sure you've got more than one of each.
Yeah, definitely. I was just about to say that. Make sure you've got more than one of each, because you're going to lose a few lures. Some of the fish out there are pretty unstoppable, so they will take you into the rocks. And what will happen is essentially some of your poppers will no longer float anymore. They'll get big teeth marks in them, and they'll just sink. So they'll be no good. You can repair them, which is okay. So my favourite lure, my secret lure from this year's trip, Salmo slider. So it's a pike lure that I use back home for pike. I thought I'd take it out to Panama, see if it will do the trick for the fish over there, and lo and behold, it did. Doesn't really look like anything they're going to find out there. Crucian carp pattern, not particularly a prevalent bait fish out there, I don't think, but yeah, it did the trick. Didn't look like that when I brought it home anyway. It had no paint left on it whatsoever. I actually left it with Sam over in Panama when I left, and I think he carried on catching fish with it the week after. So yeah, if you go there, pack a few of those, because they're very, very good lures. Fish are quite fast on a sweeping retrieve. I had my big rooster fish on that lure, as well as quite a few other fish. Jigs, we haven't done particularly that well with jigs, but I know some other anglers do. We've had some nice fish. I had this nice Pacific grunt there in the background. Sam's had some nice amberjack. Butterfly jigs, the Shimano ones, and the H2O slow jigs seem to be the ones that work the best. Little small slow jigs, tight to the bottom, they flutter on the way down, and the fish take them on the drop pretty much. Those are the ones we've caught the most fish on. 40 to 100 grams, so they're quite small, not the big speed jigs. Those speed jigging does work sometimes. Okay, lure fishing tactics. So yeah, this is probably the most important one is this top one. So search for your fish and cast and move constantly. So you're moving around all the time in your hobie, you're pedaling, you're constantly searching out new ground, cast, tiring work. But if you're just doing the odd cast here or there and not moving much, you're not going to find the fish. Look for disturbed white water, breaking waves, anything where there's some commotion, where there's white water, swell hitting a headland, reefs coming out of the water, anything like that. Same as bass fishing back here. That's where the fish are. They're in there hunting down the prey. That's being confused by all this white water. That's where you want to put your lures. Mix it up. So yeah, you've seen some of the lures we use. Just keep working your way through your box. You find something, and the same goes with retrieve rates. The way we got the roosters interested was to really speed up the retrieve rate. So crank it in as fast as you can. Even try trolling whilst cranking just to get that extra speed. That worked quite well. You find
it was interesting. They were the roosters were they were really, you really had to crank it hard, didn't you, to get them to take, because they're quite often following the lures, weren't they? But they weren't.
They'd follow all the way in, but they wouldn't take it unless it's moved. You don't give them a chance to think about it. Strip it in really, really quick. So I found trolling whilst pulling the rod as fast as I could, essentially, just to move the lure, especially that little jerk bait. That worked a treat at speed. Same with trolling lures when you're on the move. So say you're fishing a particular area, you're looking at another spot you want to try. Don't wind your rod in, stick it in the rod holder. Just leave the lure in the water as you're trolling. One of those big rooster fish Sam caught last year took a popper just being trolled along the surface. Biggest rooster fish of the week. So he wouldn't have caught that if he'd reeled his lure in while he was moving. So always keep a lure in the water.
I put a camera on one of the trolls and trolled it around for a couple of hours, and it was quite interesting seeing the way that, I mean, I didn't actually hook anything while I was doing that, probably because the camera was creating distorting the movement of the troll. But you could see these fish, packs of bonitos, tuna, and snappers coming at the lure. It was quite interesting to see the way that they were behaving. Unfortunately, the resolution of it's not good enough to put on this presentation, but it was quite interesting.
Definitely, yeah. I have to get myself one of those cameras, I think, Tim. Plan your escape route. So this is kind of a bit of safety, which we're going to get onto in a minute. But plan your escape route when you hook a fish. And when you hook a fish, generally they want to go back to where you've hooked them, or they will try and take you where they've hooked them. So if you're casting into white water, you hook a fish in the white water on a tight drag, that's where your boat's going to end up. So you need to be thinking about where the position of your kayak is once you hook something. So turning the nose back out to sea is a good strategy. So you can paddle yourself out of danger, essentially. And that's quite important. This year in particular, I took my own Hobie reverse drive out with me to try and sort of combat this issue, and it worked well. So that leads me on very nicely indeed to the Hobie kayak. So what boats are we fishing off in Panama? You can see the guys here. I sat on the Outback. So these are Hobie Outbacks. They're an earlier model than the ones that are available now, but they're still got all the same features. 12 foot in length, so quite short, quite maneuverable kayak. The most unique thing about the Hobie, if you're not aware, is the fact that they're pedal driven. So you don't have a paddle in your hand, which is a massive advantage somewhere like Panama where you're lure fishing continuously. You can steer the boat and move the boat around while you're fishing. So yes, what a fantastic aid that is. These boats are very stable. They're quite wide and they sit high in the water, as you can see here. So yeah, they're very stable. You're not going to tip them over. Be very, very hard push to knock one of these over. We've had a few herring manoeuvres over there where we've got a bit too close to danger and they've not gone over. So Aside from being bright yellow and sitting high in the water, they've also got flags on the back. So yeah, they're very visible. You can spot your mate from a mile away. You can see if they've got a fish on, if they're in any difficulty. So yeah, thumbs up from me. I'm a Hobie fan. Got one at home. And go on, Tim.
Well, I was going to say, I've never been kayaking before, ever. I mean, well, apart from just, on the beach in Cornwall when I was mucking around. So I was quite nervous about getting into a kayak in water that I knew sharks were in, for instance. Because it is something you worry about. Anything really. And I got into these kayaks. I was amazed at how stable they were. Even I couldn't see them. I did actually fall in at one point. Nothing's like that for me. And the kayaks are just, you can do all sorts on them without feeling like they're going to.
Fantastic boat. The Outback in particular is very, very good boat. You can move around in it very quickly. You steer with a rudder, and you can move yourself, change direction very fast because it's quite short. So yeah, it's a perfect boat for over there. You wouldn't want anything longer or sleeker because you're going to stand more chance of getting into trouble. So. Okay, so that's the fishing and the gear and the kayaks. We'll tell you a little bit about the lodge and the lodgings and the actual camp life. So Tembladera Lodge. So this is the lodge here in the background. Sam is showing us off. 2 solar panels on the front here. So it's a very sustainable lodge. The water comes from the mountains, which is filtered on site. So there's no pipes or anything. It's Pascal set it all up himself. So yeah, very sustainable lodge. Most of the materials that went into building that lodge came from the beach itself and from the local area. So yeah, it's a really nice communal eating place each evening. There's a cooking area in there, seating. Nice to watch the sunset. So yes, not just about the fishing. We had some cracking socials over in Panama. Last 2 years I've met some great people when I've been over there. Yeah, this is pretty much the evening. We sit around, drink beers, eat loads of fish that we caught, and yeah, just share stories and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Fishing.
Yeah, why bother? Yeah, the food is pretty jaw-dropping out there. There's a head chef Barbara, fantastic chef. We eat what we catch essentially. So the first couple of days you're normally eating chicken and steak and other meats that they bring with you, and then after that it's down to us to eat the catch. So dorado, yellowfin tuna, snappers, amberjack, you name it, we've eaten it. It's all very tasty. Lots of fresh sushi. Not only that, but Barbara will knock up some very nice treats. And a good baker, so we'll have lots of sweet treats when we're out and about on the boats. Keep us, give us some energy. So yeah, the food this year was pretty astounding, to be honest. You certainly look forward to a decent meal when you get back after a day's kayaking, that's for sure. The accommodation lodges, so aside from the main sort of communal lodge, you have these smaller lodges that sleep 2 people. Very comfortable lodge. Everything you need to stay comfortable inside is in there. So you've got nice beds, mosquito nets, a sheet, blanket, there's storage space in there for all your stuff as well. So yeah, really comfortable. It's a far cry from what it was like when Pascal first set it up, when people were camping in tents and that kind of thing. It's pretty luxurious, I'd say. Behind these, you've got your own toilet, private shower. So yeah, what more can you ask for, really? Okay, safety. So I know this is right at the end, but I personally think it's potentially quite a dangerous place to fish. The swells you get there are massive. You get huge Pacific swells, and they have a habit of creeping up on you. You can see, not the best picture this one, but you can see the big swell in the background crashing behind the kayaker there. That happens all up and down the coast. The swells are huge. That's why the fish are there, essentially, because of these swells. But yeah, they can be dangerous, so you need to keep an eye on them, watch where you're going. Stay within your comfort zone, so yeah, don't get too close, essentially, and buddy up. We think that going in groups, if there's 4 of us, we'd always stay with someone else. Not only is it safer, but it's just better fishing with someone else, someone there to help you out if you get into trouble. Take your pictures of your fish as well. So very, very strong sun out there. So you're right on the equator. So you're talking 28, 30 degrees most days. So as much as you want to wear shorts and t-shirts, you can't really get away with it. You have to wear long sleeve, UV protective clothing, hats, buffs, sunglasses, even gloves, and trousers. You know, you can't get away with shorts and t-shirts because you're going to burn. So completely cover up. That's what I'd recommend, because sunburn is not nice somewhere like that. Hooked fish, I mentioned it already, hooked fish like the rocks. So when you hook fish, they're going to drag you into the rocks. So if you're too close to begin with, and there's swell coming up behind you and the fish is trying to pull you in there as well, you're in a bit of trouble. So we've lost fish in the past where we just haven't been able to get out in time. We've had to slacken your drag off and pedal out of danger. So just beware of your position when you hook a fish, because they certainly want to take you with them. Tim just mentioned it a minute ago, sharks, they're not particularly a massive danger to you unless one grabs your fish as you're lifting out of the water or something like that. We've had quite a few encounters with the sharks. I hooked one last trip on a jerk bait, bit me off pretty quickly, and I had them take live baits and things, and Sam even saw them when we were snorkeling. So they're big bull sharks, and they are quite aggressive, can potentially be dangerous.
Well, he had one that came up, followed his popper right up and went under his kayak.
Paul did as well. Paul had one follow his popper right to the edge and pulled it out of the way last minute to save his popper, essentially. So he lost his lure. All that aside, there is the boat does act as a safety boat. They don't just drop you off and then head back to camp. They'll stay out just offshore, keep an eye on everybody. That's why you've got your flags, so they can see where you are. They're there if you need them. We've had a few occasions where we've waved our flags and they've come over and helped us out unhooking fish and sort of tangles around the rudders and that kind of thing. So they're there if you need them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you're interested in a trip, then yeah, there's a few contact details on here. Contact Sam if you're in the UK. Sam runs guided trips out there. Or contact Pascal direct if you're somewhere else. But there's also a website you can visit. I've also done a couple of YouTube videos of some of the action that I've had out there. I will do more eventually, but I just haven't got around to it. I've got more footage to show everybody. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
I'll just say, I'd just like to come in here and say that was absolutely fantastic presentation. Thanks very much, Carl. It's certainly very entertaining, and for me, sat here in the West Country watching shots of fish being caught in Panama was, and some of the colours and the experience you had was a great story.
I want to go back now. Yeah. I'll be signing up for 2019 soon.
That's great.
So, it was extraordinary. I mean, it was just magic, and I mean, it physically grew. You have to be prepared to be out in a kayak for 6 hours with a lunch break. But I mean, it's hard. We were all by 9 o'clock at night because we were knackered.
Definitely. Yeah, it's pretty full on stuff, but it's rewarding. You can see from some of the pictures the fish we've caught out there. You put the effort in, you can prepare, as Tim says. The fish are there for the taking. They're there. You just need to work for them.
That's great. Tim, I'll just hand over to you now to sign off, because I think you've got one or two other things planned over the coming weeks. So I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, we have. We've got webinars that we will be publishing on Navionics' website shortly. We've nothing quite as exciting as this, but but different subjects about marine electronics. We're going to do something about fitting a new engine, which we've done on one of our boats, and one or two other topics as well. So I look forward to presenting those. Hopefully Kyle will join me on one or two of those, and we'll have some other guests too. So and don't forget, if you want to get saltwater boat angling, if you can't get hold of one in your local shops, you can always go online and subscribe. And if you do that at the moment, you get a fabulous 4-pack of sidewinders, which is worth about £35. So they're a nice plug for the magazine. The next issue is out, and we're currently working on the June issue. So look forward to that. And of course, we've had lots about these Panama adventures in the previous issues too. Carl's written a piece. Sam did a very nice piece in the last issue too. So there you go. Anyway, thanks very much for
Hear a bit
attending.
more about it.
Okay, thanks very much indeed, guys, and I hope everybody's enjoyed it as much as I have. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.